actual real life temper tantrums in the operating room. I had never seen a grown man throw a temper tantrum, and I was getting bullied and harassed and I was crying every day. They made the conditions pretty much impossible for me so that I would quit. If you can believe it, even more red flags have been exposed. Hey everyone, welcome back to the community. I am a physician assistant turned life coach, and I love talking about my pivot journey and hopefully inspire others with theirs. Today, we are talking about how I got fired from 2 physician assistant jobs in 1 year. I already know this is going to be a super long video, so it's going to be split into part 1 and part 2. The first job that I got fired from, I was there for a total of 6 months. And I wish it was less, honestly. 6 months too long. If you were to look up the definition of toxic work environment in the dictionary, this place would come up, okay? Like, I'm scrolling, like I literally Googled toxic work environment, and it's like, yep, 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 yep. Burnout, feeling anxious all the time, crying at work, crying in my car after work, low confidence, lack of energy, my mood was low, irritable, I was short with people, bullying in the workplace, gossiping about me while I'm here and I can hear them, laughing, making fun of me, very toxic work environment. And honestly, I wish I left sooner, but they got to me first and they fired me first. So the first job that fired me, it was in the specialty of orthopedics, and already up front, a red flag. I already knew, already up front, I shouldn't have been there, okay? I already knew like the culture of orthopedics. If you're not familiar with medicine, the people who usually go into orthopedics are like the bros, like it's a very boys club. There's an ego, they're aggressive, they are very short-tempered, there's yelling, there's throwing things, it's a brotherhood, boyhood, like whatever, okay? So already I probably should not have accepted this job. There's many reasons why. I still picked that job because looking back now, I know that it's because really I was very insecure about how I felt about being a physician assistant. I still was holding on to that imposter syndrome after my first job as a physician assistant. I have a video talking about how I quit that job and how much imposter syndrome and anxiety that I had with that job. So I was still holding that imposter syndrome, and so I wanted to pick a job that I thought that would be easy for me. I was like, oh, perfect. Like, it's orthopedics. I don't really have to know much else other than how to do the surgeries in the operating room. I'm not expected to rely on a lot of medical knowledge. We know we always have backup with the internal medicine team to manage all the other things going on outside of the orthopedic stuff. This person has a broken leg and I can fix that, but if they have diabetes, we're calling medicine to manage that. Okay? And so that insecurity of my medical knowledge not being that strong anymore after graduating and having, a hard time in my first job, that insecurity made me choose a job that already wasn't going to be a cultural fit. And I knew that. There were so many red flags that I just looked past when it came to applying and interviewing and then accepting the job, okay? Red flag number 1. It was told to me that I would have to work with 9 different surgeons. And I would be the only PA split up between 9 different surgeons. And the 9 different surgeons all did different aspects of orthopedics. So joints, foot and ankle, upper extremity, hand, spine, etc. And so that's already a red flag because that means I have to know all aspects of ortho. A lot of times as a PA, you focus on one area of orthopedics. So you would just know about joints and maybe you do hip and knee, and or hip, knee, shoulder. So I'm thinking in my head, okay, I have to know all of the areas of orthopedics, but it's okay because they're going to train me. The Indeed post said there are conferences and there's going to be training, in-depth training and shadowing and a cadaver lab that you can go practice. They had none of that. So I looked past that red flag because I'm expecting that as long as I'm up for the challenge, they will prepare me. Second thing that should have been a red flag for me is that I was not hired by any of the 9 surgeons. Like I said, there is like a bro code when it comes to orthopedics. And I could tell they wanted a man PA. They really wanted to hire a man. They wanted someone who would fit the culture and have the dialect or have the that they can just like shoot the with and just like have a good time and make those jokes or whatever in the operating room. That's what they wanted, but they got a Black woman. So already coming into the job, I'm already not what they wanted or expected. They didn't feel comfortable with a Black woman because they had to kind of censor themselves in the operating room. Okay, and then the third red flag is that there was no structure whatsoever. There were no set hours, which was a problem because that opens a door for working late all the time. Because there's no end time, that means I'm coming in the morning and staying until we're done. And that's all fine and dandy when you're working hourly, because then you're getting paid for that extra time. But when you're working a salary, you're getting paid the same rate no matter how late you stay. And sometimes I would work, and I was overworked. I was working sometimes 12 hours and then working Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, 12-hour shifts, and not getting compensated for those extra hours. So that was really a red flag that I overlooked in the beginning as well. It was just like my responsibility was to come in and cover the surgeries of 9 different surgeons. There was no structure of, okay, let's just work on joints for a few weeks and then let's work on spine for a few weeks so I can really get that repetition and that consistency in. It was just, my schedule was made by a surgical assistant that I worked with. We were supposed to like tag team all of these surgeries. So he made my schedule and I would just be hopping around from joints to spine to hand to whatever. And I never really got the consistency. And I never really got that repetition in so I could really like get good at it and learn the surgeon's preferences. On the job, they expected me to know every step of every surgery. There was no training, first of all. It was trial by fire. They threw me in and they just expected me to have it all down. Even though they did not train me, they didn't really have the capacity to train me because there's no other PAs that work for them who could train me. So I was just thrown in and expected to know everything on the spot. So I could be thrown into, like I said, any area of orthopedics a day and have to know every step of that surgery, have to know all of the instruments and the tools, and have to know it like a step ahead so that I'm already asking for the instruments before it's time to use them in the surgery, right? And like I said, there was no repetition. So I couldn't learn and memorize the steps because the next day I'm doing a totally different area of orthopedics with a totally different surgeon who has different preferences. So that made it very difficult. And what's crazy is they would throw actual real life temper tantrums in the operating room when something was not exactly what they wanted. And whenever I tell people this, like they don't believe the intensity of how these temper tantrums were. I'm so serious. I would really be like, am I working with a 4-year-old child? They would be screaming and throwing things, throwing instruments during the surgery. And my mistakes were not even like life or death. It would just be, I took too long to grab the instrument. Or it would be, I'm not working fast enough. I wasn't retracting good enough for them to have visualization of the fields. I was never putting the patient in danger. I was never doing something that would create a safety hazard for the patient or for the surgery as a whole. Yet the temper tantrums were so out of proportion to what was going on. I could not believe. I just could not believe what was happening. I had never seen a grown man throw a temper tantrum, but so in the beginning, when I'm still learning and I still have that insecurity about being a physician assistant, right? I'm still early in my career. I still have that imposter syndrome. When they would yell at me and throw these temper tantrums, I would feel like crap. Like I would go home and just feel so bad about myself because I'm like, why aren't I getting this? Why can't I pick up on this faster? Why don't I know how to do this? Why can't I memorize these steps or like learn these instruments faster, whatever the case may be? I'm really like beating myself up so much while in the operating room that I'm like trying to hold back tears because of how much I'm beating myself up and how bad I'm making myself feel. I'm holding back tears and then having to still complete the surgery at the same time. And of course, you don't want them to know that you're crying. So I'm trying to not make a single sound and just hold it all in and just like keep going. Do not lift my head up so they can see my eyes. Just do better tomorrow. That's all I told myself. Just do better tomorrow. And under those conditions and under that pressure, it's really hard to do better. I could study and know more the next day and be more prepared the next day. But that internal feeling of anxiety of I'm going to do something wrong would still make me not perform the way I wanted to. Because I was psyching myself out, I was still not able to perform the way I wanted to because I was second guessing myself and I didn't trust myself. My confidence was so low because I was just never properly trained. And I could not keep up with their unrealistic expectations. There was actual toxicity and workplace harassment. I mean, they would be bullying, gossiping about me when I'm in the same room, berating me, laughing at me, and they would try to get other people in the operating room in on the joke, which is me. I'm the joke. Any little mistake or hesitancy or anything that would happen, they would blow up and try to get everyone else in the room in on the joke. Because that was their way of having fun in the OR. They were having fun at my expense. And I felt like I could not speak up for myself because I was not performing at a level that could prove them wrong. I felt like the only way that I could speak up is if I was killing it, and I wasn't killing it. So I had to stay quiet. So I would just tell myself, when you get better, that's when you can talk. So it was all just like a motivation to try and get better, which is sad. Like I wish that I had the confidence to speak up, even if I was not performing at a level that met their unrealistic expectations. I wish I had spoken up. So my day to day was getting to work at 7 most days, sometimes 6, depending on the day, and working until 5, 6, 7 at night. Going home, trying to get something to eat really quick, trying to shower, and then study for the next 3 or 4 surgeries that I have the next day. The anatomy, the physiology, the steps of the surgery, the instruments that are used, and the times that you use them, and know them enough to be able to anticipate the next step and already be ready for it. And also remember what surgeon I'm working with, because every one of the 9 surgeons has different preferences for how they want their setup and what order they want to do things in, how they like things. So eventually, I think it was month 5, they put me on a performance improvement plan, a PIP. And they wanted me to have a certain amount of improvement by the next, I think, 2 months. But honestly and truly, this was just a formality. They needed to show that they tried before firing me. And so they said I needed to have a certain amount of improvement in the next 2 months. I tell them, okay, but you need to train me if you want me to get to this level that you want me at. They could not offer me much when it came to training because they had no one to train me. They were like, well, we need you to work these surgeries, so we can't really have you shadowing someone else. So they didn't have the capacity to train me, yet they wanted me to get to a certain level in 2 months. They wanted me to quit. They wanted me to quit. I know that. They know that. They made the conditions pretty much impossible for me so that I would quit and they could get who they wanted all along. So by month 6, even more red flags, if you can believe it, even more red flags have been exposed. The first one being, we have this meeting with the whole larger practice. More surgeons and other PAs that worked with these surgeons kind of one-on-one. I was the only one who was a PA to 9 surgeons. All these other physician assistants were like one-on-one with theirs, which obviously makes it easier to learn and progress, but I digress. After talking to some of the other PAs after the meeting individually, I learned that some of them had been complaining for not getting paid for work that they did months before. Months. They had still not been paid months after. That's a huge red flag. That's when I really was like, I need to go harder on the job search, because if that happens to me, this place is diabolical. This place is past toxic at this point if you're not paying people. So that blew my mind. The second red flag was that I got to meet that PA that worked the job that I had before me, and she told me everything about how bad they treated her, how unrealistic the expectations were, what they wanted her to do, how late they wanted her to be working, how hard they wanted her to be working, how late they wanted her to be working, all these expectations, how they would treat her, how they would bully her, how they would talk to her. And I was like, that is my exact experience. So this is just what they do. This is who they are. This is not just me, which was somewhat of a relief. Of course I felt bad for her, but at the same time, I'm somewhat relieved because, okay, this is how they are. This is not anything to do with my capability as a physician assistant. This is how they are, and this is who they have been in the past. And okay, the moment we've all been waiting for, the moment that I got fired, okay? This was still month 6. This was 1 month after they gave me the performance improvement plan. Even though they told me they were going to give me 2 months to improve, at the 1 month mark, they called me in for a meeting. I'm like, that's interesting because I actually have a surgery scheduled at that time, yet they want me to be at this meeting. And I knew I was getting fired, but I played along like I didn't know, and I asked, what's the meeting about? Oh, just come in and you'll know once you get here. I could tell something was off for a week before getting fired. Just the energy around me and toward me was different. So I go in for the meeting. They tell me that they are letting me go, and I unfortunately cried. But here's the thing, I cry when I am angry. So I was just so angry. I was also embarrassed. Okay. I am not someone who ever thought I would get fired, okay? Like, I've always been a straight A student. I graduated college summa cum laude with a degree in biology, okay? I was always a rule follower. I never, ever, ever thought I would get fired from any job, okay? So that contributed to me just crying because I'm just embarrassed for failing. It felt like failure. It felt like I didn't perform. So I'm embarrassed. I'm angry because they never gave me a real chance, yet they had these expectations and blamed me for not meeting them. I was angry because of how I was treated. I was angry because they didn't give me a chance. I was angry because of how much I sacrificed to be at that job. My time, my energy, my mood, my sleep, things that I wanted to do after work, I couldn't do just to end up 6 months later unemployed again. I was angry. I left the office and walked out of there feeling so relieved. I cried in my car, but it was a different kind of cry because this was just like, I was so relieved. I was so relieved I didn't have to go into that surgery that I was scheduled to do that day. But I was just relieved to like not have to be in that environment anymore. I didn't care about money at that point. I didn't care about being unemployed. I just cared that I was free. I felt that freedom driving home. I just sobbed just out of excitement and relief and um release. They made the decision for me, and it was the best decision that could have been made for both of us. They got to me first, but I was trying to get out since month 2. I stayed 4 months longer than I should have. And they tried to get me to quit, but I couldn't find a job fast enough. And so they did it. They made the hard decision for both of us. And I'm so glad they did, and I wish they did it sooner, to be honest. Lessons I learned from this experience. There were so many red flags that I overlooked before signing that offer letter. Orthopedics as a whole, the culture, um, being one PA to 9 surgeons, what the scheduling was going to be like, the fact that there was no other PAs, and more. All of these red flags should have caused me to pause. But I was unemployed and I needed a job. And so I got myself into a toxic situation because I rushed into something that didn't align. When you rush, you overlook the red flags. Notice what happens when you rush and make decisions out of a scarcity mindset, and notice what happens when you make decisions out of intention and being fulfilled and being calm and at peace and informed. Notice what happens when you make decisions out of that place. Follow those feelings when making important decisions. I was also making a decision to work this job out of a sense of insecurity and imposter syndrome, wanting to choose orthopedics just because I thought it would be the easiest specialty, where I didn't have to rely so much on medical knowledge. I became a certified PA because I know things. I graduated from school and passed the pants because I know things, because I'm smart, because I studied, because I worked. If I had trusted that and not have let my imposter syndrome lead me, I would have chosen a specialty that fit better. And any medical knowledge that I didn't have at the time, I wish I trusted myself that I could learn it. and I could know it and I could be good at it. When you make decisions out of feeling inadequate, you're not going to choose what aligns with the future you who will eventually become confident. You're choosing something that aligns with inadequate you instead of choosing something that aligns with the confident version of you. Ultimately, God never wanted me to be in the physician assistant career for long anyway. Now that I have pivoted into life coaching, I know that now. And being in this very, very toxic scenario was him trying to push me out of it. Him trying to tell me, hey, this is miserable for you. Get out. I have something better for you on the other side. It's like that meme of the little girl holding the teddy bear behind her back, but she doesn't want to give it up because she feels comfortable with the teddy bear and doesn't know what else she might get in return. And God is literally just like, if you just give me that, I have something so much better for you. But I could not see anything on the other side of being a physician assistant. So I held on to things even when they were making me so miserable, even when it was so toxic and I was getting bullied and harassed and I was crying every day. I still held on to it because I couldn't see anything else, and I'd already worked so hard for this career. I felt like I needed to stay. There is something better on the other side of being miserable. There is another life. And the only way that you will be able to reach the other side is if you are willing to let go of what you currently have. There's a quote that I love, and I actually have it on a post-it note on my wall in my room. You cannot reach new horizons until you have the courage to lose sight of the shore. Everything you want is on the other side of that fear. You're not going to be able to reach that next step until you can let go of what's not serving you. And I didn't have the courage to jump and let go of the job because I wanted a backup plan and I wanted a cushion. But eventually I got fired and didn't have a cushion anyway. But being fired was the best decision. I was released, and then I had the courage to search for something that better aligned with what I wanted and better aligned with who I am. At the point that it's happening, it's embarrassing. You don't want to tell people. You feel like a failure. You're so low. But honestly and truly, if you see it as a gift and see it as an opportunity to turn your attention to something better, then it's the best thing that could ever happen. And it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. If anything in this video resonated with you, please leave a comment down below so we can keep the conversation going. I made this channel because I know what it's like to be in a job and in a career that doesn't align with who you actually are. So I made this channel to share my story and hopefully help other people realize maybe they're not aligned, help them to gain clarity, reconnect with themselves, and start building a life that actually feels like theirs. If you're interested in coaching and want to know what it'd be like to work with me, you can click the link in the description down below. That will allow you to set up an alignment call. We can hop on a call and chat, and if it seems like a good fit, we can talk about next steps. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.